They didn't just crash my wedding, they called the FBI on me. Yeah, you heard that right. On the day I said I do, my HOA president tried to get me arrested for building a wedding arch on my own damn property. But what she didn't know was, my father is the county sheriff. It all started that morning. The sun was out, the chairs were lined up, and the music was soft and steady. My fiancée was about to walk down the aisle, and for a second I actually believed it was going to be perfect. Then they came 3 people in matching suits and clipboards walking across my lawn like they were on a crime scene. Leading them was Marlene Parker, the HOA president. Red dress, big sunglasses, lips curled into that fake tight smile that told you she already decided you were guilty. She didn't even wait. She marched right up to the arch, snapped a few pictures, and whispered something about unauthorized structures. My wedding arch. On my land. I tried to ignore it. My wife squeezed my hand and whispered, "Don't let them ruin this." So I forced a smile, said my vows, kissed my bride, and pretended everything was fine. But inside I was boiling. I had no idea that moment would be the first domino to fall. The next morning I woke up to find a bright yellow envelope taped to my front door. Notice of violation in all caps. 5 violations, unapproved signage, noise disturbance, improper outdoor structure, unauthorized parking and use of common property without written consent. Common property. Yeah, apparently my own front yard counted as common now. And the fine, $3,200 for getting married. I called the HOA office. Some assistant picked up, bored out of her mind. I explained everything she just said. You can appeal in writing or pay online. Click. That's it. I stood there staring at my phone, realizing this wasn't about rules. It was about control. Marlene wanted to make an example out of me, show the whole neighborhood who's in charge. 2 days later it got worse. I was outside cleaning up chairs when a black SUV pulled up. 4 men stepped out in suits, dark sunglasses, the whole secret agent vibe. One flashed a badge and said, "We need to speak with you about unauthorized use of government property." I actually laughed. "What are you talking about?" They handed me a report, official looking, full of stamps and signatures. It said I'd built a structure on federal land, my backyard. Guess who filed the complaint? Marlene Parker. They took photos, walked around my property, questioned me like I was running a drug ring. And there she was, standing down the street, arms crossed, smiling like the devil herself. That was it. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. "See, my father's not just retired military, he's the county sheriff." He listened quiet for a second, then said, "Stay put. I'm on my way." 15 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled up. My dad stepped out, badge shining in the sunlight. The look on Marlene's face, priceless. He walked straight up to the agents. "What's the issue here?" They explained, showed him the report. He nodded, calm as ever, then asked, "Who filed this complaint?" They pointed at Marlene. Dad raised an eyebrow. "You realize filing a false federal report is a crime, right?" Marlene stammered something about neighborhood regulations. My dad shook his head. "You have rules. That doesn't give you the right to weaponize federal resources against homeowners." He showed the agents my property deed, clear as day. The agents apologized and left. Marlene stormed off, muttering, "This isn't over." And she was right, it wasn't. Over the next week, the letters started piling up. Violation after violation. $400 or $500 for improper landscaping. $2, $100 for parking obstruction. Every single day, another envelope. It wasn't about the money, it was about drowning me in bureaucracy until I gave up. I started to break. I stopped sleeping. I'd come home from work, see another envelope taped to my door, and just feel sick. I kept asking myself, maybe I should have just paid the first one. Maybe I made it worse. For a moment I actually believed that, but then something in me snapped, no more. I went to the HOA office in person and demanded to see the board meeting minutes. They tried to refuse, but legally they couldn't. I sat down in that tiny beige office, flipping through pages of dull reports until I saw it. My fines weren't random. They had voted to target me specifically. 4 votes in favor, 1 against. That single no belonged to a man named David Harlan, the treasurer. I found him that evening watering his lawn. At first he avoided eye contact, but when I told him I'd seen the minutes, he sighed and said quietly, "They're abusing the system. It's not just you. They've been doing this for years." He showed me his own notes, inflated expenses, fake repairs payments that didn't match the books. "It's not mismanagement," he said. "It's theft." That was the turning point. I wasn't dealing with a control freak anymore. I was dealing with a racket. So I started documenting everything. Photos of the black SUV, copies of every fine, screenshots of my HOA account. Then I went door to door. At first people just smiled politely and shut the door. Nobody wanted to get involved. But then one by one they started talking. One man showed me a $600 fine for leaving Halloween decorations up for 2 days too long. A woman got fined $200 for a barking dog, except she didn't even own a dog. A retired veteran was ordered to remove his American flag because it was too large. It was bigger than me now. So I hosted a neighborhood cookout, no speeches, no agenda, just food, music, and quiet conversations. People came. They talked. They realized they weren't alone. Apparently, word got back to Marlene, because the next morning I woke up to find 2 huge orange barricades blocking my driveway, a sign reading, "Driveway closed, pending safety inspection," scheduled for 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of humiliation. 3 weeks of every neighbor seeing my house blocked off like a crime scene. But instead of hiding, I grabbed a chair, sat on the porch, and waved at every car that passed. When they slowed down, I told them exactly who ordered it. By sunset, half the block knew, and they were pissed. The barricades were supposed to shame me. Instead, they lit a fire under everyone else. People started coming over, sharing stories, realizing Marlene had been playing all of us. Her grip on the neighborhood was slipping, and she knew it. A few days later, David called me. "I have something," he said. We met at a diner just outside town. He slid a manila folder across the table like it was evidence in a criminal case. Inside were bank statements, fake invoices, checks made out to non-existent companies. And the biggest bombshell, a direct transfer to Marlene's personal account, labeled administrative reimbursement. David's voice was low. "You embarrassed her at your wedding. Now she wants you gone. But if we move too fast, she'll twist it. She'll make you look like the criminal." He was right, because the very next day I got another letter. Not mailed. Taped to my door. Notice of investigation. Apparently my home security cameras violated privacy guidelines. I laughed, but David didn't. He said, "She's building a paper trail. One false violation after another until the neighborhood believes you're the problem." That night I noticed a black sedan parked across the street. No lights, engine off, just sitting there. Watching. When I grabbed my camera to take a picture, it pulled away, no license plate. 2 days later I found my gas meter cover hanging open, fingerprints on it. Someone had been snooping around. And yet at every HOA meeting Marlene would smile sweetly at me like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. I started to realize she wasn't just vindictive, she was dangerous. So I decided to end it. I called a neighborhood meeting at my house. No flyers, just word of mouth. By 7 p.m., my backyard was full, people clutching envelopes, photos, receipts, proof. I held up my latest violation letter and shouted, "Who else has been fined for something that isn't even in the bylaws?" Hands shot up everywhere. One woman yelled, $300 for a faded welcome mat. Another man shouted, "My mailbox was an inch too tall." David stepped forward and laid the folder on the table. "This isn't about decorations or lawns," he said. "This is theft. Our money is being funneled into personal accounts, repairs that never happened, vendors that don't exist." The crowd erupted, anger, disbelief, shouting. Someone yelled, "We need her out." Others talked about lawyers. I knew we had her cornered, but we still needed one thing, undeniable proof. And fate handed it to me. At the next board meeting, Marlene strutted in like nothing had changed. Red blazer, designer bag, heels clicking on the tile. She called the session to order reading violations like a judge. Then I stood up. "Before you find me again, maybe explain this." I pulled out my phone and hit play. The room went silent. From the speaker came her voice, cold, commanding, from the day she'd called the feds. "Arrest them all. They're trespassing." Gasps filled the room. Even her own board members shifted in their seats. Marlene's face turned pale. "That recording is inadmissible," she barked. Someone in the back yelled, "Sounds pretty admissible to me." Laughter broke out. Her mask cracked. For the first time, she looked small. She slammed her gavel down. "This meeting is adjourned." But no one moved. People were whispering, shaking their heads, staring at her like they finally saw who she really was. That was the moment her power died. That night when I got home, there was another envelope taped to my door. Plain white. Inside, a single photo, my house taken from an upstairs window across the street. On the back, 3 words written in neat handwriting: "We are watching." I stood there on the porch, photo trembling in my hand. I should have been scared. Maybe part of me was. But mostly I felt something else resolve. If they wanted to watch me, fine. Because now I was watching back. The next morning I sat on my porch with my coffee eyes on the street. When the same black sedan showed up again, I took a perfect photo of the driver, middle-aged clipboard with the HOA logo. I sent it to David. He called immediately. "That's one of Marlene's enforcers. She hires them off the books. They scare people into paying." I smiled. Not anymore. A week later at the emergency session, I walked into the community hall with David at my side. Marlene sat dead center, lips tight, eyes cold. "Mr. Carter," she said, "we've received reports of suspicious activity on your property." I cut her off. "You mean my cameras, the same ones that caught your people tampering with my gas meter?" She glared, jaw tight. "This isn't a debate. The board reserves the right—" "That's your problem, Marlene," I interrupted. "You keep inventing rules, but rules don't protect you from the truth." I dropped the folder on the table, bank transfers, fake invoices, the photo of her spy, and finally a petition signed by 30 neighbors demanding her resignation. The room exploded. Shouts, gasps, chaos. Marlene just sat there, pale, clutching her pen like it could save her. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. "This isn't over." Maybe she was right. But for the first time, it didn't matter. Because she'd already lost everything that made her dangerous, her silence, her control, her fear. And as I walked out of that room, I realized something: power only works when people stay quiet. That day I made sure they spoke.